Hi guys, welcome into my channel. Welcome back. I'm going to be making this gorgeous dishcloth today. The yarn that we are using is going to be this beautiful peaches and cream. This is 100% cotton yarn. The name of it is Ocean Stripes. All right, that's the name of it, and it's 100% cotton yarn. We're going to be making our washcloth today with this yarn. It's a beautiful mix of blues and greens. This is one that I had made earlier. This is perfect for fall and Christmas time. These colors are gorgeous. But we're going to be making one sort of just like this, but in this colorway. All right, so the things that you are going to need is, of course, your yarn. So any cotton yarn will do. It doesn't have to be on a cone like this. This is on a cone. But you can buy yours in a little ball or whatever. Just make sure it's 100% cotton. That way it will absorb the water if you're making a dishcloth. And you can use these for cleaning, dusting, in the shower, your face, or on dishes. Very versatile. So you're going to need your cotton yarn. You're also going to need a darning needle. All right, this is for sewing in your ends. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You might need a measuring tape to measure, but I do a quick and easy way of just sort of making a triangle. So I know that when I can fold this into a triangle, it's about the right size. All right, and I am going to be using a G6 number 4mm hook today. It's a 4mm hook. That's what I like using. Now, I have done some other dishcloths like this with a little more looser crochet stitch to them and used a 5. So it just depends on if you want something that's really tight or something that's loose. So something loose like this, I used a 5mm hook for. And then this one that I want a little tighter stitch, I used a 4 hook. So you can just play around with your yarn and your hook and see what you like the best. And it all depends on your tension, of course, and the yarn that you're using. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to chain 30 on our hook. So we're going to make a slip knot first, and you need to leave a little tail. All right, so you just make a loop with your yarn and then stick your yarn right in the center of it and pull. That's a slip knot. Okay, we're going to put our hook in here. Now this end is our tail, so make sure you leave a tail to weave in your ends. And this is your working yarn. This is attached to your yarn. All right, so we're going to chain 30. So you're going to loop your yarn and pull through. Loop and pull through. Loop and pull through. All right, just like that. All right, these are chains. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I've got 30 here. I purposely did not count out loud to mess up your counting. So all of these V's are representing a stitch, okay? And if you're new to crochet, you don't want to do too tight or too loose. You don't want to be so tight that you can't work into these stitches. This is called your chain, okay, or your foundation row. All right, so this is your chain. So we're going to be looping again. We're doing a half double crochet into all of these stitches. We're going to go into the second hole from the loop. We're not counting this one. This is our working working stitch right here. So we're not going to count this one that's attached to our hook. We're skipping the first one and we're going into the second one. So we're going to loop our yarn and we're going to do a half double crochet. So we're going into here. Just try to shove your hook into that V, right into the center of the V like that. All right, and you're going to loop your yarn and pull through. You're going to have 3 loops on your hook. That's a half double crochet. Again, We're using the really stiff cotton yarns for dishes and stuff, so it's a little stiffer than normal, but once we get past this first row, it'll be a whole lot easier. All right, so it's gonna look something like that. All right, loop again, go in here. Again, this whole dishcloth is going to be made with a half double crochet. Again, the cotton yarn is a little stiffer and harder to work with than the acrylic yarn. So if you're having a hard time, that's probably why, is because we're using this really stiff cotton yarn, but it does the best for dishcloths. All right, make sure you give your yarn, get some yarn out of your skein here so it's not pulling. I'm working with a cone. Give yourself some leeway with the yarn that you're pulling out. And you can make these dishcloths in any stitch that you like. If you have a certain stitch that you use, that you know how to do, if you're a beginner and you only know how to do a single crochet or a double crochet, you can use those too. It really doesn't matter. Dishcloths are so versatile. You can make them any size with almost any cotton yarn. You don't want to make one with acrylic yarn because it's not going to absorb the water. All right, so this initial row is just the toughest to sort of get in there and do your half double crochets into, because the yarn is stiff. Let's go right into that center V if you're a beginner. And the softer cotton yarn you use, the easier this will be. Some cotton yarns are a lot softer than others. The cotton yarn that comes on the cones tends to be really stiff. So just know that if you're ordering any cotton yarn on a cone, it will be a lot stiffer. And certain colors tend to be stiffer than others. But this stiff yarn is really, really great for making these washcloths because they really hold up when you're scrubbing your dishes. And you can throw these right in the washer and the dryer and not worry about them. Again, you could use a bigger hook. You could use a 5 or a 6 hook. I just like the look of these nice tight stitches on these washcloths. So I'm using a 4, but you can definitely go up if you want to. All right, so this last stitch, you're going to want to try to get right into that center to go right straight through. Did I do the loop before? Now that I went, yeah, I did the loop. All right, so get in there and just try to pull through. It is tough because it's tight. All right, so we're going to chain 2. And we're going to chain our work, turn our work. All right, so that's our initial chain. All right, and now we're going to be going right into that very first stitch again with a half double crochet. So a half double crochet is loop, go in, loop your yarn, pull through, loop again, pull through 3. This is probably universally everybody's favorite crochet stitch. It's my favorite. I can really go fast with this stitch. Of course, when I'm not doing a tutorial, I go really fast. And if you're new, you want to try to watch your tension and make sure that you're doing consistent stitches, nothing too tight or too loose. Just look back at your work, and if you have maybe places that are super loose or super tight, all right, so this is a great stitch for a beginner. Very quick stitch. Loop, go in, loop, pull through, loop, pull through. And once you start crocheting, it's less about the actual what you're doing. You're not thinking loop, go in, loop, pull through, loop, pull through. You're sort of just doing the movement. So if you can just memorize the movement that you're doing, you will go a lot faster. So we're not thinking loop, go through, loop. We're just doing the movement over and over again. So memorize the movement that your hands are doing, and that will really help you to crochet faster if you're looking to improve your speed. Again, when you're first learning, you don't have to worry about speed. You need to be more important with not missing stitches and not dropping stitches, and your tension is probably the most important thing. All right, so on our last stitch here, okay, see our V here, that's our stitch that we want to go into. So we're going to loop and make sure we pick up both of those loops. All right, we're not working in the back or the front only, we're getting both of those stitches. So see that V right there, that's your last stitch. And maybe if you're a beginner, you need to put a stitch marker to hold that last stitch and that first stitch so you don't forget. If your work tends to go in and get smaller as you're going, you're probably missing stitches. Right, so this is all done in the half double crochet once we get going back and forth. All right, that's what it should look like. If you need to put a stitch marker, you can just put your stitch markers in where you need to. All right, if you need to put a stitch marker maybe at the front of your work, all right, you would put it right here on this very front stitch that you need to pick up. And if you needed to put it on the last stitch, you would put it here on this very last stitch. That will help you not miss stitches. So if you're a beginner, that's a little tip for you. All right, so let's see, where were we? We've got to do, all right, we've just finished that row, so we're going to do chain 2. Okay, and then we're going to turn our work. Okay, we're going to do all the same things. So pull out your yarn, make sure you have plenty of yarn. All right, so we're going to loop our yarn and we're going to go into that very first stitch. All right, so if you need to mark that, you can mark that and just keep moving it up every time, but we're going to want to get into that very first stitch. If we skipped this stitch and started going into this every row, our washcloth would get smaller and smaller. So we're going to loop. All right, we're going to go into that very first stitch right here. All right, and pull through all 3 loops. Again, this is a half double crochet, very easy. And if you're using softer yarn, this will definitely go quicker. Again, I'm using a really stiff yarn from this cone, so it's a little slower going. Okay, that's what your stitches should look like. And I might crochet tighter or looser than you, so if you are new to crochet and you have a really tight tension and you can't seem to loosen it up, you may try to use a larger hook size. That will help your work to be looser without adjusting your tension. So that's another tip for a new beginner. If you have any beginner tips, put them in the comments, or if any of these tips are helping you, leave that in the comments so I can know if I'm helping you. So see how this color is changing already, and we do not even have to change our yarn. That's what I love about variegated yarns. They change color automatically, so you don't have to worry about changing your color yarn. All right, we're just continuing to do these stitches. Again, we're not going into the front or the back loop only. If we were to only go into the front loop, it would change the appearance of the washcloth, and you can try that on a couple rows to see if you like that. The front loop is this part of the V right here in front. The back loop only is this back part of the loop of the V. All right, so if I was only to go into this back loop on these rows, it would give a ribbing effect. And that is really cool on washcloths too. All right, now if I wanted to go into the third loop only, that is back here as well. That is this stitch right here, that horizontal one. that is this stitch right here, and that would give you a totally different look also. All right, that's the third loop. All right, this would be the front loop only. This would be the back loop only. And this would be the third loop. All right, if you ever run across patterns that call for those stitches, that's where they are. All right, so let's just continue with this. This washcloth, dishcloth is so versatile. Again, you could do it in any colorway as long as it's cotton. Any size. You can make smaller ones, you could make bigger ones, longer ones, taller ones. You just increase or decrease your chain, and that will change the size of your washcloth. All right, we've gone into our last stitch, so we're going to chain 2 and turn. All right, we're looping our hook, and we're going into that very first stitch. Well, trying to. Okay. And again, this cotton yarn can be a little tricky working with because it's so stiff. And you could also do a whole dishcloth with a single crochet. You could do a whole dishcloth with using a double crochet. You could alternate single and double crochets. You could do front loop only. You could do back loop only. You could do any combination of those. Maybe you could do front loop only on one row and back loop only on the next row, or alternate. You could make these any way that you wanted to. And if you notice, as soon as I'm done with a stitch, I loop over my yarn immediately. I don't stop the stitch and then loop. I just go into that loop, or as soon as I'm done with the previous stitch, I'm looping already. Some people will go like this and they'll finish this stitch and then they'll loop and to go into another stitch. I loop immediately after I finish this stitch. Okay, so we're at our end. Okay, that's our last stitch that we have to go into right here. Okay, we're going to be picking up both of those loops on that V. All right, that's where it is. So we're gonna loop our yarn and go into both of those loops. All right, that's our last stitch. And then we're gonna chain 2 and turn. This is what it's looking like so far. Okay, so we've chained 2, so we're going to turn. Again, we're looping over and we're going right into that very first stitch. And if I'm going too fast for you and you need to slow down the video, you can do that in settings. You can save the video, you can rewatch the video. So let me know in the comments, are you brand new to crochet? Have you watched my tutorials? Are they helping you at all? Let me know also what tutorials you want to see, what stitches maybe you need help with. So this is a new YouTube channel for me. I'm really enjoying making the videos for these projects. So let me know if you like the videos that I've made so far. I'm really enjoying making them, and I think I'm learning every time I make a new video. I am learning something new. So hopefully I am helping you. And let me know in the comments if you've seen my videos, if you like them, if you like following along with them, if I'm helping you at all. I'd love to hear that. And do you like to make dishcloths, washcloths? Do you love to make these? What are your favorite projects to make? What colors do you like to make these in? What styles? There's another row finished. We're gonna just keep plugging along. So this washcloth, when we're done, or dishcloth, is gonna measure around 8 inches long and 7.5 inches tall, but you could make them any size that you want. This is one that I've made earlier today for an order. You can make these as wide and as tall as you want to. I love to fold them up and put them in little bundles with a little ribbon around it, and I think they look so sweet. I have an order. This one is for Glenda in Texas, and she ordered a set of these. So I'm making these just for Glenda. So let me know in the comments what stitches that you like to use for your dishcloths. I've done some in half double crochet, some in double crochet, different combinations. I've done the ribbed ones. What yarn do you like to use? Again, here's one I've made for a little thank you gift for Christmas time, and I just put a little bow. I rolled them up and put a little bow, and I think this is the perfect thank you hostess gift. Isn't that so cute? Wouldn't you love to get that for Christmas? Now these I did I did double crochets, I think, for these, and I just used a bigger hook to make it a little more open. These are really fun beginner projects, and these are really great gifts to do. Everybody loves to get these. And again, I use these for dishes. I use these for dusting, cleaning. I should put one in my bath because my puff thing that I use in the shower is always falling apart. So I'm gonna make myself some for my shower. These are great gifts to give as thank yous, Christmas gifts. Everybody loves these. When I have given these for gifts, people say, I love these. These remind me of my grandma. I love these. They are just the best gifts, and I have people asking me every year for these. So these bring back memories for people who saw these, their grandmothers making these, their moms making these. Isn't that so pretty? And it's just a very simple half double crochet. Again, you could make these in any type of different pattern with the stitches so easily, just by doing maybe front loop or back loops, changing up your stitches, maybe doing 1 stitch single crochet, 1 stitch double crochet. You could make them all look different or all the same if you were doing bundles as gifts. And you could make them any size. You could make little squares. You could make circle ones. You can just do anything you wanted to with these. And you could make them to match your kitchen. All right, let's pull out some more yarn here. All right, here's our last stitch, all right, of the row. And okay, it looks like I split my yarn here. So if you see a little thread of yarn hanging out, that's a split yarn. You just caught the edge of that. Just go back and redo that. That's called splitting your yarn. All right, it's when you sort of go between these little fibers that make up the yarn. All right, so at the end of the row, we're going to chain 2 and turn. We're doing half double crochets in every single stitch, and we're going straight through the entire stitch. We're not doing front loop only or back loop only. We're going straight through the whole stitch. Again, if you wanted a ribbed effect, you could go into the back loop only on every single row, or you could alternate 1 row, whole loop, next row, back loop only. That'll give it a different effect too. Again, it's more of doing the ribbon. I'm going to pull out some of my yarn here. once you get in the groove, it's just following the rhythm of what you're doing more than it is doing the different parts of the stitch. Your hand will get in the groove of doing what you're doing over and over again. So for those of you who are beginners, just know that keep doing it and it will get easier and easier. And if you stop thinking about what you're trying to do and just let your hand do the same movement over and over again, it'll get a lot easier for you. Okay, that's our last stitch of the row. That's what it's looking like. We're gonna chain 2 and turn. So let me know in the comments, do you love making dishcloths, washcloths? Have you made them before? What's your favorite stitch to make them in? I just love a simple double crochet or half double crochet, just something simple. I like to do autopilot crochet projects where I just turn on my TV or my music and I just start crocheting, and I don't even pay attention to what I'm doing. I sort of just crochet along. Lots of times I'll put on another crochet artist on YouTube and just do a project that I don't really have to think about. I just sort of keep doing it. Those are the best projects. All right, I'm resting my arm down on the table, so I hope I'm not moving the camera too bad. Okay, we're going into our last stitch here. All right, we want to grab both of those loops in there. Oh, we've got a knot here in our yarn. Sometimes you'll get a knot in your working yarn that you're pulling through and just unpull it. Sometimes you'll get a factory knot, and I like to cut those out and leave longer tails. All right, so we've done our last stitch in our row. We're going to chain 2 and turn. All right, so anytime you messed up and you just got to go back and make sure you're doing it correctly, just pull out that stitch and just go back and make sure you got it. Again, we're looking for consistent tension. Now, tension, if you're a beginner, tension is how tight or loose you do your stitches. So if you find that you've gone into like a part where you've done everything sort of too tight or too loose, it might be beneficial for you to just backtrack and pull out your stitches a little bit and go back and redo that section. That way it looks nice. Okay, so you have consistent stitches. And that's one of the biggest challenges for a beginner crocheter, I think, is tension is number 1. And another issue is dropping stitches or missing stitches or not getting that first and that last stitch. And that's where just putting a stitch marker in your beginning stitch and your last stitch will help you not to miss those stitches. So I do have a TikTok account, and I have a lot of friends on here that watch my YouTube videos. So if you're one of my friends from TikTok, just put in the comments, hey. All right, so that's the end of our row. We're going to chain 2 and turn. And then I do sell everything that I make for sale on my Etsy shop, MelodyYarnTinka. If you haven't checked out my items, make sure you do. I have lots of cool items on there. Time to get some more yarn out. And I do not go around and do a border on these. I just like easy peasy projects, but if you wanted to be fancy, you could go ahead and do a single crochet border around this whole thing after you were done. You could use contrasting yarn or the same yarn or whatever, but I don't. I just want easy peasy projects. All right, again, we're getting both loops of our stitches. We're looking for a nice square look to this, so we're not missing any stitches. We're doing half double crochets. All right, we've gone into our last stitch there, so we're going to chain 2 and then turn our work. And again, we're doing a half double crochet into every single stitch. We're going into that very first stitch right there. All right, pull through. And if you're dealing with a cone, the yarn is very stiff, so you need to have your yarn out. And see how stiff it is? It's sort of looking like string here. It's 100% cotton. Again, it's peaches and cream, and the color is ocean stripes. Really pretty peaches and cream. You can make these dishcloths in any color, any size, any stitch. That's what makes them so versatile. But one thing is, everybody loves to get these. No one is going to be disappointed if you give them a dish washcloth or dish scrubby or whatever you want to call these washcloths. And when I give a little bundle of these, I tie a ribbon around them, I fold them up into squares like this, into nice squares. And then I stack 4 of them on top of one another and put a nice ribbon with a bow on top. And they are just so darling. They're so cute to give like that. Whoever you give that to is going to be so appreciative, and they're going to think it's the cutest little thing. These would be really good to give someone going away for college that is having to wash their own dishes, or housewarming, or a new apartment, a new home, wedding gift, wedding shower gift, anything like that. People would love to get these. Again, you can make them in any colorway, any size. You just got to make sure they're 100% cotton. And you could even do stripes. You could change colors. You could do anything you wanted to on these. Again, any stitch, combination of stitches, colors, size. All right, we're going to make sure we go into that very last row right here. So those new crocheters, make sure you get that very last stitch. All right, and then chain 2, turn our work. Go and do that one again. Again, I'm going into both loops on that V. We're not doing only the front or only the back. We're going into both loops. I need to get some more yarn here. All right, here's our end of our row. Again, we're going in and getting those 2 loops right there. There's our last stitch. Don't miss that. If you miss that every single time, your dishcloth is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. All right, we're getting there. If you've been following along, you're doing great. All right, chain 2 and turn. Again, this cotton yarn is very stiff. As you can see, it's a little harder to go into, a little easier to sort of drop off your hook and not split the yarn and all of that, but you need it for this to absorb water. So some cotton yarns that you can find are a lot softer. These cones tend to be very stiff for some reason. All right, here's our last stitch we're going into, and chain 2 and turn. I'm gonna go back and do that one. I got hooked up. But if you happen to notice that your dishcloth is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, it might be because you're either missing the first stitch or the last stitch. Look at your tension. Make sure, does your tension look nice and even? All right, this should be how it's looking, as some sort of a nice square. All right, here's our last stitch. So make sure you're getting that very, very last stitch. All right, for those of you, let me show where it is for those of you who are beginners. All right, it's that very last stitch right there, that very last V. That is what we're going into. If you have a habit of missing that last stitch, put a stitch marker. All right. All right, and this is going to be the first stitch that we're going to go into. We chain 2 and we turn, and that's our very first stitch we're going into, is that very first one. So if your edges are coming in or going out, make sure you mark your first and your last stitch, and that will help you to get the same ones, or you can count your stitches. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that one over. I didn't like the look of that one for some reason. All right. All right, after this row, we're going to try to, we're going to put the other one underneath and see how much farther we have. We could count rows, but I'll just stick the other one underneath and that'll give us some idea. I know it's going to be, for me, around 7.5 inches, but for you and your yarn, your hook, your tension, it might be different, and that's okay. It does not need to be the same size. It can be smaller or bigger. I gotta get some more yarn. All right, here's our last stitch that we're going to need to go into right there. So we're going to catch those, chain 2 and turn. All right, and let's see how much further we have to do. So going by this one, let's flip this one over. Okay, so I think we only have to do maybe one more row, and then we'll measure it. I think maybe one more row. Again, we're going into that very first stitch. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I almost turned it into a double crochet. All right. Again, we're doing half double crochet stitches on all of these. Loop, go in, loop, pull through all 3. This is my favorite stitch. What is your favorite stitch? If you want to put that in the comments, I'd love to see what your favorite stitch is. Especially for doing dishcloths, what's your favorite stitch? The other one I like to do is just a simple half double crochet. Again, I'm using a 4 hook, but you can make a 5 hook if you wanted it to look a little looser like this. I think these are super cute too. I just think that they look so cute folded up into a little bundle, and they're easier to fold up if I use a 4 hook and do a half double crochet. They're a little easier to fold, so that's why I do it. If I'm going to roll them up like that other bundle, I will use a 5 hook and a double crochet. I think they look really pretty like that too. Again, you could use any color, any hook size to go with your yarn, and any stitch, or even any combination of stitches. Just make these your own. If you're going to make something, make it your own. Put your little spin on it. And just a little bit more yarn here. This may be our last one. All right, we're going to make sure we get our very last stitch in there. All right, and then let's measure this thing and see. All right, I got my last stitch there. I think, I don't know, maybe one more row. Not sure. Oops, sorry. Oh, one more row. I lied. One more row, guys. Chain 2 and turn. We're almost there. If you have been following along with me doing this, you're doing great. Again, this is a beginner project, but this is a easy peasy project, and this is something that everybody loves to do and everybody loves to receive. So these are great gifts, stash busters. If you have stashes of yarn that you're trying to work through, some scrap yarn, you can make a scrap yarn one with all kinds of different colors of your scraps. All right, you just attach the yarn each time you run out of a certain yarn, and attach it and hide your ends and keep going. All right, this will be our last row, I'm sure. We'll get the measuring tape out and we'll measure this. But this can be a stash buster. Or if you've had some cotton yarn laying around and you haven't been working with it, make some of these up for holiday gifts. That way you have them on hand. I usually make a bunch of these ones up and put them in a little bowl in the kitchen. And I show my husband where it is, and I say, if anybody comes to visit our house or drop off cookies or anything to us for the holidays, grab one of these bundles of dishcloths and give them to them, or neighbors, or wherever. If they come in the holidays, they will get one. All right, this is our last stitch. I am sure of it. All right, and usually what I like to do is just fold it. And if I can fold it into a nice triangle, I know I'm done. So that's our last stitch. So what we're going to do is, after you've done your last stitch, you're just going to do another chain, and you're going to cut your yarn, leave yourself a tail, and then you're just going to pull it through. Okay, that's going to fasten off your yarn. All right, and you're going to get your darning needle. All right, one of these things, and you're going to put the end on your darning needle here. All right, and you're going to, I usually go in the back, so look to see what the front or the back is. I think that's the back. This is the front, not that it matters. So this is the back. All right, you're going to grab your darning needle and you're just going to go in and get those stitches. All right, and then you're going to pull through. And then you're going to make sure you skip some stitches, and you're going to go in again, pull through. All right, you're going to go back the other way at least 3 times. You're going to skip a stitch, okay, to make sure that you catch the next stitch, and go through underneath. Try to make it look as neat as possible. Do at least 3. Sometimes I will do just, 4 or 5 depending on the project that I'm doing. That way you know it's not going to come apart on you. But do at least 3. That way you know it's nice and secure. And then you're going to take your scissors and just cut off the extra. All right. Make sure you save all of your yarn scraps. That is free fill if you're making anything where you need stuffing. If you collect your yarn scraps, that is free stuffing. If you're not saving your yarn scraps, you're throwing away money. All right, so we're going in. I hope you can see that there. All right, and we're going to skip some of these stitches. All right, I'm skipping that first one, and I'm going in here, pulling through. That way you're just tying off your work and it's going to be nice and secure. Again, I'm going to skip. And if you don't have enough to hold on to your yarn, put your yarn needle in here. Make sure you leave that piece right there. All right, so that when you pull this through, it's going over that stitch. All right, and this is going to secure it nicely. And you can just hide your ends here. I like to go in 3 or 4 times when I'm hiding my yarn. That way it's nice and secure and neat. All right, just like that. And then you're going to take your scissors and just cut off your extra yarn. All right. And look how beautiful it is. So let's measure it. Let's move things out of the way a little bit. Get our measuring tape. All right, so when we're laying it nice and flat, it has nice edges. And it's about 8 inches across. And it's about 7 1/4 inches. Depending on if I sort of stretched it out, then it would be more like 7 1/2. But it's about 7 1/4 to 7 1/2 inches tall. Again, I just go like this, and that's how I keep track of my rows, but you could count your rows if you wanted to. But you can make these any size, any shape, any color of yarn that you liked, and I will show you. Okay, so I fold these up. All right, fold them in a nice, cute little square. And then you do the same thing for your other one. Just fold it up into a nice, cute square. Get the edges all nice. All right, and then you stack them up, and then you put a little bow on top, and they're just the cutest little bundle of dishcloths. They are so adorable. You just wrap it in a bow and it will look so cute. Or you can roll them up. So let me show you how I do these. All right, so I take like 3 or 4 and I just lay them all down, and I try to like alternate if I'm using different colors. All right, then you're gonna just roll these. All right, and then you're gonna put your ribbon And this is a good way to use up your scraps, use up your scrap ribbon. All right, you're just going to put a nice little bow. I could make these a little even here. I'm trying to work underneath the phone. All right, so you just make your little bow here and tie a ribbon. All right, and look at that cute little Christmas gift. These would be excellent gifts to give as thank yous for the holidays. So guys, I hope you like this video, and give it a like, and watch the next video if you liked it. Thank you so much, guys.